Did you know that the construction industry has one of the highest suicide rates in any job area? Join me, Dr. Marianne, a qualified clinical psychologist, as I chat with Lee Stewart, an ex-Marine and current member of the construction workforce. We are taking a look at what is going on behind this alarming statistic and what can be done to save lives. Just before we get started, you might well notice that in this interview, I have a large bandage on my face. I had recently got a mole removed and I didn't want to reschedule because it felt like a really important conversation to have. Let this be your little reminder that if you've got any mole or skin changes, do go and get them checked by your GP. Hope you find this useful. Hi, welcome along. I'm Dr. Marianne, and I love shining a light on mental health areas of importance. When I was preparing for this video, I had a quick look about what was already on YouTube for this topic, and the answer is not that much. And that is really alarming, considering what an impact this is having on individuals, on work teams, on families and support systems. If you value this content, please do like, subscribe, share, and drop me a comment. Let's dive in on my chat with Lee. Hi, Lee. Welcome along to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Marianne. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I always love speaking with you. And since we last spoke, you've had a change of your business. You were previously working in fitness and you from an ex-military background, but you are now working in quite a different area. You've really taken control and you're doing something very different now, aren't you? What are you doing now?
Yeah, well, basically, I went from being a Royal Marine to owning a boot camp fitness business. COVID sort of saw the end of that. Bit of a long story, but yeah, COVID was the end of the fitness business. And I now find myself operating a mini crane, installing steel beams for builders on building sites every day. So yeah, a bit of a contrast from what I was doing before.
Very different, but I know from following you on socials and from our chat beforehand, this is really invigorating for you. You're really enjoying it, and you're a father, you're a husband, and this is really helping to help you do all the things you love to provide for your family, but also your own mental health.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. When the fitness business came to an end, as you know, it's a bit of a long story. I know we're limited for time, so I won't go into it too much. But yeah, I've always been conscious of my mental health. I had a few issues, to say the least, when I was a bit younger. So since then, I've always been, really keen to prioritise my mental health. And I understand that your job, what you do for a living, what you get up out of bed and go and do for 8 hours a day, 9 hours, well, sometimes more, can have a massive impact on your mental health. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, it can impact your mood and your energy. And you go home, you take that mood and energy home with you. It then starts to impact your relationship, your parenting, your diet, and then all this has a bit of a snowball effect, and it can be obviously detrimental, to say the least. So yeah, when I was looking for something to do after my fitness business, I gave it a huge amount of thought. And to be honest, that was one of the main sort of priorities, really, was finding something that I thought I'd be happy doing, I'd enjoy doing, so that I took home at the end of each working day a positive energy into my house. As you mentioned, I'm married, I've got a lovely wife, I've got 4 beautiful little kids, and I didn't want to come home in a foul mood and let that foul mood affect everybody else. It's just something that to me is super, super important.
Yeah, and I think what I love about what you've done is that, you've demonstrated that actually you can do a career change at whatever stage of your life. I know that you had young twins at the time when this was happening as well. And you were like, well, this is the right time for me. And this is going to be giving me the chance to live my authentic self, in my family and to have the kids grow up with a happy dad, really.
Yeah. That's what was important to me, Don't get me wrong, I love my dad to bits. He's a brilliant dad, and he worked so hard to provide for me and my sister and put a roof over our heads, put food on the table. And but I knew, I didn't know at the time, but looking back, I understand he was under a lot of pressure. He didn't particularly enjoy what he was doing. For example, my dad, he used to work in a factory all day, and he used to say that in the winter he didn't see sunlight. He'd get up really early in the morning, go to the factory, work all day, do overtime. By the time he'd come out, it was pitch black again. He hadn't seen the sunlight all day. Then he'd come home and he'd start fixing cars. He was good with cars. And I remember him, he'd be lying in our back entry at home in the snow on his back underneath the car, welding cars. And, he was brilliant in that respect. But at the same time, not all the time, sometimes it didn't take much to set him off. He'd lose his temper, start shouting and swearing and banging the table and all the rest of it. I'm keen not to sound like I'm bad-mouthing my dad. I'm not, because I understand what pressure is and that, getting up and doing something that you hate all day, coming home and lying in the snow welding cars. I can understand why he used to lose his temper a bit sometimes. But I was just keen to, as a father now myself, not to repeat that pattern.
Absolutely. It really reduces your window of tolerance when you are not vibing off what you're doing. I don't think I'm young enough or cool enough to say vibing, but then I've gone for it. I've said it. It really does change your outlook, and it changes your capacity to do all of your roles, all of your responsibilities, but also to just do you.
Yeah, that's it. It's you can't do something that you hate all day and then come home to your family and be all happy and cheery and play with the kids and have some banter with your wife and, read stories and, out at bedtime. You can't do all that stuff if you just come home miserable and you want to just open a beer and a bag of crisps and sit on the sofa and binge watch YouTube videos or whatever. If you do something you quite enjoy all day, you come home and you're in a positive mood and you're ready to be that husband and you're ready to be that father that I aspire to be, and probably a lot of men aspire to be, but they find it difficult because they're slogging away at something they don't particularly enjoy all day.
Well done to you. That's absolutely, I'm so pleased that you found that and that you're achieving that for your family. With your experiences of the building trade, I'm very aware that there's a very high demographic, it's not a very nice term, but of high suicide rates in the building trade. And I'm also aware, that within that, there'd be a wide spectrum of people from kind of jobbing 16, 17-year-olds learning trade and doing kind of bricklaying and scaffolding apprenticeships and stuff, right up to company owners. This is a big scope of people that we're kind of discussing here. What's your take on why the rates for suicide are so high in this industry, Lee?
I've got to be honest, Marianne, I was actually shocked when I found this out because I entered the construction industry. I wouldn't call myself a tradesman because I just basically operate a crane at the end of the day and install steel beams. But I'm still in the construction industry, and I entered it because I thought it would be good for my mental health. And it actually is. I love it. I'm outside all day. I'm getting plenty of sunlight. It's physical what I do. So I'm getting a form of exercise. I'm with the lads all day. I know, don't want to be politically incorrect, but I just love working in a male-dominated environment. It's a little bit dangerous. You have to stay switched on. Otherwise, potentially I could get hurt or somebody else could get hurt. So when I decided to take this route, I thought to myself, when was the happiest time of my life, work-wise? And it was when I was in the Royal Marines. So I thought, okay, when I was in the Marines, what was it that made me happy? And like I said, it was being outside, it was doing physical stuff, dangerous stuff, I had to stay switched on, being with the lads, having a bit of banter and, good laugh and taking the mickey out of each other and all that kind of thing. So that's why I joined the construction industry, because I thought it'd be very, very similar. And I'm loving it. But since we spoke the other week, and then somebody else actually mentioned to me that the construction industry has a high suicide rate, I just got tried to think, why is that? Why is it that I'm loving it? And don't get me wrong, a lot of the builders I speak to, they say they love it, say they enjoy it. So I know, obviously it can be enjoyed, but giving it some thought, I've come up with a few things. First thing that occurred to me is perhaps that what I do is very, very varied. I go to a different building site every day, meet a different bunch of lads. I've got a different problem or a different set of problems to overcome. I'm travelling sort of all over the Midlands and the Northwest, so I'm seeing a bit of the country as I'm driving around, meeting different people. And maybe if you haven't got that variety, if you're just turning up on a building site every day and laying 1,000 bricks, You go home, go to bed, get up the next day, go back to the same building site, lay another 1,000 bricks, and that's your life, week in, week out, just laying perhaps a lack of variety. And I'm just using the brickies as an example. I'm sure there's other areas of the building industry where there is that lack of variety. So that was the first thing that came to my head. Second thing I've noticed is on a lot of building sites I go to, and I'm not trying to be judgmental here, but their diet is atrocious. It's all Greg's. I don't know if I'm allowed to name names. Sorry if I'm not allowed to name names, but it's basically fast food, junk food, bags of crisps, bottles of pop, etc., etc. And I think a lot of people don't understand the relationship between the food that we eat, sugars, refined carbohydrates, all the chemicals that they put in processed food these days. A lot of people don't understand the link between that and their mental health. So I think a lot of builders would probably benefit from cleaning the diet up. Obviously, there's a bit of a drinking culture. A lot of builders, they go for a few beers on the way home, or they spend all weekend having a few beers, drinking basically. And as you know, obviously, alcohol is a depressant. Doesn't do you any good from a mental point of view. So if you're sort of combining all this, and another thing I've thought about as well is status. I found a little bit that if you're walking around in a suit, a laptop case, like a briefcase, for example, or you're perhaps when I was a PT, in a tracksuit or a vest, I was looking in shape. People look at you differently. Whereas if you got work boots on and you're covered in mud and you're soaking wet and you got all muck all over your face and your hair's everywhere, some people in society can sort of look down on workmen, on tradesmen. I remember at school, or somebody said to me the other day actually that when they were at school, the teachers used to say, if you don't try hard, you'll end up working on a building site. And there's that sort of, so I don't know if some lads in the trades feel like they lack a bit of status in society.
I think you're right. I think I can remember that sort of being said and threatened and around, and maybe what we know is that perhaps people that do find formal education more tricky are more likely to end up in kind of hands-on manual labour professions. And so maybe there are more people that are perhaps struggling with some of the, interfacing of kind of modern life and keeping up with everybody else and the shame and stigma. Maybe people are ending up in the building trade who didn't thrive in school or didn't find it the easiest or weren't supported optimally to overcome dyslexia, to kind of think about ADHD, all of those kind of different things that make engaging in education trickier.
Yeah. So, I'd just like to say at this point, I think there's a massive difference between academic intelligence, people that can read books, and sort of memorise it and regurgitate it, or even understand it, hopefully. There's a big difference between academic intelligence and practical intelligence and common sense. I work on some building sites and you can tell that they're a very, very good builder. And some of the things that I see them come up with to overcome problems, to get these steel beams in, and all their work is immaculate. They've got a really neat, tidy, clean site. And you can just tell that they're very, very proud of their professional capabilities. And I can almost guarantee a lot of these lads that are fantastic builders, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, all these kinds of people, they're very, very skilled. And a lot of the work they do is dangerous and it's hard work and it's in unpleasant conditions. Oftentimes you're cold and wet. And when I think back on the attitude to these guys, when I was at school by the teachers, not all of them obviously, but some of the teachers, and the way sometimes society look down on tradesmen, the work some of these guys do in, like I say, unpleasant conditions, hard graft, it's, I take my hat off to them. And I think a lot of tradesmen should recognise the contribution that they make to society. Where would we be without these guys? They build our houses, they fix our houses, they fix our roofs. Any pipes start leaking, your lights go out. These guys will come out and they fix it for you. And I think they need to give themselves a pat on the back for that and understand, they do a lot of things that these more academic people just couldn't do, either couldn't do or wouldn't want to do.
I hear you. And today we've had someone out to look at our guttering. So exactly that. And my husband was like, well, I could do it. But it's got to the stage where he's gonna be 49, and he's like, it's gonna be really hard for me to do that. Like, I think we should get someone. And I was like, yeah, I totally support that. Like, you know, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, these guys fulfill a vital role, and we'd be lost without them, and they need to give themselves some credit for that. It's just a different type of intelligence and aptitude and common sense, you know. And it's some of the lads, like I say, blow my mind, some of the things they come up with, their problem solving abilities and the pride they take in their work, the things they construct is fantastic.
I think you could be the difference that makes a difference here, Lee. I feel like more sites need to be run by compassionate leaders like you are and like you would be, kind of pointing out, actually, I can see that you struggle with X, Y, Z, but this is incredible. Like, you should be really proud of this, and just try and help lift people up and see themselves as an asset, as doing good things, not perhaps looking at a deficit, looking at things they can't do.
Yeah, that's it. So say if you got the lads and they started understanding how sort of valuable they are and what skill sets they've got, and understanding that's actually, you know, they're a massive credit to society. If they sort of change their mindset in that respect, and if they clean their diets up a little bit and maybe cut down on the boozing and maybe did a bit of exercise, or what was the other thing I mentioned? Yeah, maybe added a little bit of variety. If they thought to themselves, do get a bit bored laying these bricks, or I do get a bit bored doing this or that, how can I add a little bit more variety into my job? Then perhaps, so like I say, those things either individually or combined could improve their mental health, and, you know, maybe do something about the suicide rate. I don't know.
Yeah, amazing. I love those ideas. And actually, if anyone's listening to this and thinking, well, I've got a builder coming into clinic next week, these are really good examples to be able to discuss with them, but also really empowering them to think about, well, if we could make a change, you know, what would that look like? What would be enough? You know, if you woke up tomorrow and you didn't feel like this, what would need to have changed? And it might be that they kind of drawing on what you've said, like, actually, this site, this job that I've been in for 5 years, it's not igniting me. And, you know, they might then come kind of with a problem-focused narrative of, I can't change my job because I'm 10 years away from retirement, or I won't find another job, or no one else will want me, or, you know, I've only ended up in this job because I came in from school. And, you know, challenge that. You know, I know that we can kind of pigeonhole ourselves, but just, I believe in infinite possibility for change and rehabilitation, and we can live successful, happy, fulfilling lives. And I know you feel the same way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I like I say, I do try and talk to the lads when I'm on site, and I do say to them, how long you been a builder? A lot of them say, since I left school. I say, do you enjoy it? And like I say, a lot of them, I'd say that most of them say, yeah, I love it. Now, you've got to bear in mind, some of them might be lying, because a lot of people just say, yeah, I love it, even if they don't. But some of them do say, I hate it. I can't stay here. But I say, well, why do you keep doing it then? Why don't you do something else? I go, I couldn't do anything else. I've done this since I left school. And I don't feel, at that point, I don't feel like it's my place to try and coach them or lecture them or try and talk. You know, it's not my place, really. I don't think in that environment to try and help them, or, you know, try and instigate a career change. I'm there to install the steel beam.
Yeah, I hear you. But I guess what you're saying is that they haven't necessarily experienced an upbringing where they realise that you can be really, really happy in your job and love it and, you know, sing about it almost. Like, you know, perhaps if they've been raised in an environment like you were, where your dad actually didn't really like his job and he wasn't fulfilled by it, and then he kind of had to live for the weekends, really, you know? And if other people on building sites have had that experience and then go on to have the same experience themselves, they kind of develop that belief that this is just what work is, and it's all just kind of drudgery, really, until you retire or die. And that's not particularly hope-filling, is it?
No, that's it. I think, you know, I hope you'll agree, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think to have good mental health, I think part of it is optimism. You need to be able to look at the next 6 months, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 or 30 years with a sense of optimism. You need to be looking forward to your future. Whereas if all you can see in your future is getting up every day and going to something that you hate, obviously, common sense dictates that isn't good for your mental health. Just looking forward and not wanting to do it. To fitness business owner, to crane hire business owner. And, if anyone's listening to this and it resonates, I just have a look at me. I've just gone from one thing, made an extreme move to another, and then I've done it again. I've done it with babies at home, very young children, 4 very young children, bills and mortgage to pay and all the rest of it. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. It's actually very, very hard. It's risky. You lose a lot of sleep. Your anxiety levels will go up. It's a difficult transition. But in my opinion, I've been going 18 months, and it's only just really in the last maybe 4 or 5 months started to get established, and my stress and anxiety levels have started to come down. I just put a lot of hard work into it. Like I say, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of anxiety. Things are a bit tight, but you just got to think to yourself, right, do I want to do something that I hate for the next 10, 20, 30 years? Or do I want to have a bit of confidence in myself, take a few risks, and maybe go through a bit of a stressful year or two, transitioning into something else that I'll hopefully enjoy. And, just weighing it all up and maybe, being inspired to make the decision to go for it, for the benefit of your own mental health, your own happiness, but also the sake of your marriage, your kids, and your wider relationships.
And, people don't have to do this alone. They can kind of try and get financial backing as well. You speak to bank managers, put a case forward to kind of really put a business plan together for this and how you're going to earn that money and, in the process, make yourself so much happier. Thank you so much, Lee. I've loved speaking with you. And I think these are really, really interesting points. And I hope this will inspire people working in mental health, but also those who might be listening to this who are thinking, oh, that's me. I didn't realise I was supposed to be happy in work. Where can people connect with you? What's your Instagram?
Yeah, on Instagram, my Still Beam Lifter Instagram is Still Beam Lifter Midlands and Northwest. It might be Still Beam Lifter Mids and Northwest.
Honestly, I've loved speaking with you, Lee. It's been a real privilege, and thank you for taking the time out of your evening to do this, because I know time is so precious.
You're more than welcome, and thanks again for asking me on.
Thank you. Thanks again to Lee for his time in speaking with me on this really important area. If we can even turn the tide on one person who might be thinking that suicide is the way out for them, then this is time well spent indeed. Let's use this as a starting point. Let's take action. Let's support one another. Let's be the difference that makes the difference in the construction industry. How could you help with that? Do you work in construction yourself, or perhaps you love somebody who does? I would love your thoughts on this. Please do drop them in the comments and let me know what you think. If you have enjoyed this content, please do subscribe to the channel. Please do drop me a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you've got any questions. Thank you so much for your time in watching this, and I'll see you very soon.